Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Freestyle Chess Grand Slam Tour of 2025. This is a calendar-long event. There are 5 tournaments. This is tournament number 2 in Paris, France. The next tournament is in the United States. The one after that might be in India. And then after that, we finish off the year with an event in Cape Town in South Africa. The way this tournament works is that it is a round robin followed by a knockout. Today is the second and final day of the round robin. In Paris, 4 players will be eliminated from the playoffs, but they still compete for some prize money, and then the top 8 make it. And a friendly reminder that the top 4 seeds get to choose their opponents in the next round. We've got a lot of different storylines, all right? One of the biggest storylines is we still have no update from Hans Niemann. And I must admit, I am a bit concerned. Magnus Carlsen is trying to win the round robin. Jan Nepomniachtchi doing well. Maxime Vachier-Lagrave, the representative from France. Hikaru is talking about retirement. Gukesh, the world champion, struggling for a second freestyle tournament in a row. So a lot of different interesting storylines. Let's go. I'm going to show you a couple of games as always. Friendly reminder that Nodirbek Abdusattorov subbed into this tournament the night before the media day. He flew from, I think, Uzbekistan. Nobody has refuted that in the comment section. I don't know why any of you, for whatever reason, would know how Nodirbek traveled. But I don't know. Maybe you do. Anyway, Magnus versus Nodirbek, a very, very exciting matchup. And Magnus opens with the move f4. Now, again, for those of you confused, the back row of pieces is randomly selected before every single round. And then the players get a little bit of time to prepare, hence freestyle chess. One thing I want to just very quickly say, some of you are very weird, and you write really aggressive comments in this comment section, like, why are you erasing history by not referring to this as Fischer Random? So if you don't know, Bobby Fischer, world champion and considered by a lot of people to be the greatest of all time, basically invented this format. I mean, there are some differences in the freestyle format, like the fact that they don't, they remove positions after they are played. Nobody's erasing history, you bumbling buffoons. This event is just called freestyle chess, and it's interchangeable. You call it Fischer Random, Chess 960, whatever you want to call it. If you're watching one of these recaps and getting angry, it's time to get off the internet and go outside, which is just generally good advice. Anyway, ramblings aside, let's look at Magnus Carlsen play against Nodirbek Abdusattorov. Magnus making a mistake on the second move, which is, I mean, what this format is all about, basically. It's people just making mistakes. D5. E4. And Magnus brings out the queen. Now, what you'll notice about Magnus in the freestyle format is he brings out his queen a lot. He really likes to get the queen involved, and obviously there are just soft spots in the enemy position that can be taken advantage of. Nodirbek develops the knight. Magnus loves doing this. He did this to me too. I've played against Magnus. He frequently will bring the queen up and back. C6, C3. And generally in this format, you want to have a stable and strong center, and you want to have good future prospects for all of your pieces. Bishop to C7, knight to G3, and knight to D3. Very nice position. Nodirbek castled his king pretty quickly. Magnus will probably need to castle his king pretty quickly. Otherwise, the king will come under some sort of attack, and the bishop goes to the C4 square. I don't quite get the point here, because obviously the bishop is going to be questioned, and now you're going to have to come up with a concept. Nodirbek plays a very intriguing idea, which is trying to target this pawn and create a fork in the position. Magnus defends, and Nodirbek here should take the knight and just be slightly worse. He gave white the bishop pair. White will then, ultimately choose which way to castle. And bishop a5. Nodirbek gets a double question mark for this move from Stockfish, but the idea is quite simple. He wants to take the pawn and go after Magnus's king. He wants to sacrifice his bishop and leave Magnus stranded with a piece in the center of the board. Now, for reasons I can't quite explain, Magnus decides to meme around. He decides to take 3 pieces for the queen, which is just epic stuff. I mean, why not? He could have just moved the queen out of the way, but then he would have come under fire, right? His king is not really getting out of the center of the board. He decides that rather than doing that, he would play a position where he has 3 pieces for the queen. And so we're going to see a very interesting battle there between Magnus's two bishops and knight versus the queen. We're also going to see an interesting battle in this recap between the allergy medication that I took about 30 minutes ago and the espresso that I just drank. Do not try this at home. You see, for most of my adult life, I have taken either Claritin or Zyrtec. And recently I added the one that starts with an X, which I cannot pronounce. Getting crushed by allergies, man. Seasonal allergies the last few years have been absolutely horrible. And like, I feel like I'm just like floating in outer space, you know, because my histamines just, you know, kick into high gear. So I'm trying a new allergy medication today. It should be non-drowsy, but we'll see. And, you know, if I fall asleep mid recap, at least it will be good content. Maybe I won't, though. Anyway, ramblings aside, Nordjubek continues to try to attack Magnus, who takes the bait, and the queen comes out to b5. It's kind of a ridiculous position, but white has enough material that the black queen is not particularly powerful. Magnus grabs a pawn and is just forking black, and pretty soon black is just going to run out of pieces. He's not going to be able to attack because he's just not going to have enough pieces remaining. Magnus is king in the center of the board, waving the bull on, right? Now he grabs the rook, and black is down to 3 pieces to attack white, whereas white has 5 pieces to defend the king and begins playing bishop e3, and now king to e2. Look at this. We're going to make a great escape to the g1 square, at which point white will have all endgame advantages and the long-term prospect of attacking the black king in the corner of the board. Black plays a4, and white moves the bishop to e6, where he will lock it in and finish this journey. Knight to b5, d5. King goes to f3 because he wasn't able to go to f2. And Magnus just walking around the board confidently. King, very handsome, very well protected, very demure, dare I say. And we clean it up back into a position with a queen for 3 pieces, and the black king is much weaker than the white king. Nordjubek ultimately gives a couple of checks. Rook c4 is a very nice touch. Hits both pieces. If you take like this, obviously you lose the queen and you end up losing in the endgame. Rook c4, you lose the queen as well. So this happens, and this is a winning endgame for white. It could be a draw. Black could draw it, but ultimately you're not going to be able to fight off 2 bishops. The 2 bishops are simply too strong, and Magnus will keep bothering Nordjubek until he picks up the pawn on f6, and then he's going to promote like this. Cleared out. Bishops stop everything. This bishop is protecting this, which is protecting. That's just a beautiful position for white, and Magnus wins the way he beats most people. The way he beats most people in some form of an endgame. Now, I'm going to cover a couple of other very interesting storylines. The first one is this one. You know, last time Hikaru played this event, he threatened retirement. Then he had a good, you know, tournament. And he kind of like said, you know, maybe he's going to reconsider. Now he's threatening retirement again. But we'll see how he does. Friendly reminder, very different setup of pieces, obviously. Like everything, I think literally every piece. Okay, just the rook in the corner, I think, is the same. Yeah, unless I'm mixing something else up. But f4. Vincent Keimer, by the way, the champion of the Freestyle Chess Grand Slam Tour, played in Germany in February, the one that I was at. And Hikaru actually in this game opens up his bishop and his queen in the corner. But generally speaking, in this format, if you can get a powerful wedge like this that takes away squares from your opponent and doesn't let them easily get their pieces into the game, you will have an advantage. It's just like kind of a hidden secret. You know, these guys are kind of opening nerds, and they, you know, they look for any advantage that they can get. Vincent, by the way, showing high understanding. Queen is defending the bishop. He's expanding over here potentially to try to weaken where the king is. King is going to have difficulty castling in that direction. But Hikaru doing a nice job. He offers the trade of knights. Vincent trades and plays bishop g3. So now we're looking at a potential situation where all the bishops are going to get traded off the board. Rook a3. I love the way Vincent plays. I got to tell you. I mean, it's like alien-like. I mean, when I watch Vincent play freestyle, it's really fascinating. I really try to get into his head. a5 by Hikaru. Now, d3 is kind of a mysterious move because you would think that we brought the rook there. Maybe we didn't. Maybe we're just going to slide the rook over and then try to generate some sort of attack, right? Bishop takes. Pawn takes. Wow. Vincent senses long-term that he could potentially use the h-file. That is pretty wild. Rook a6. Hikaru liked Vincent's idea. He's like, this is the way we're going to get the rooks into the game. And now Hikaru looking to trade the pawn off in the center of the board. Queen f2, right? Vincent just pushing forward, putting a little bit more pressure, all right? Black takes on f5. Vincent takes with the g-pawn, undoubling. Hikaru trades and plays knight to d7. It looks like black has castled, by the way. He hasn't, but it's kind of fine. It's actually okay. Like, if you're able to get the rook into the game, yeah, the king doesn't need to castle. White can't castle, by the way, just so you understand. White moved the rook to a3, and a couple moves later moved that rook. So actually, Vincent's king is already kind of castled. Right? Knight d7, rook b3. Vincent eyeing the light squares, and look at that. Flying the king to the other side of the board, and now the left side of the board is pretty barren. Vincent doesn't really have any way forward there. He plays rook b5. And it's just a matter of pawns. Like, do those pawns matter to Hikaru or do they not matter? We're getting into a time trouble. Hikaru has struggled in this format in time scrambles. Like, that is ultimately what cost him. And that's one of the reasons that in the last one, he talked about retiring because he was unable to be clutch at the critical moments of the game when there was low time on the clock. And now we're seeing another position where in a low time, we see Vincent Keimer cleaning up Hikaru's pawns. He's now up 2 pawns with a dominant position, and it's spinning out of control very quickly for Hikaru, who plays queen e5. Vincent plays knight d4, centralizing all the pieces, puts his king to safety, and is keeping good pressure on Hikaru. Rook g5, trying to pick up the knight, get back to the center square like this. Yeah, queen e7. And just a very nice game from Vincent, who ultimately gives a million checks and just has a totally winning endgame because he is up 700 pawns. And he will queen. This is winning. He's just going to have to demonstrate how. There it is, picking up some pawns, and now the pawns are going. And Hikaru here resigns. You're just not going to be able to create enough counterplay. Vincent is a monster at this format. He's really, really good, and he's trying to make it to the top 8. Hikaru ended up clutching it out. He had a pretty rough second day, but he got a win at the end. He didn't win a game until the end when he managed to defeat Report and effectively secure a position in the top 8. Remember, getting into the top 8 is important. You qualify to the classical portion. He played a very, very, enterprising, exciting game. This is typical Hikaru stuff, not the one that's talking about retirement. And it was a very nice game from him. He cleaned things up, and he did it with low time, honestly. So he did ultimately bounce back. Now, I'd like to cover another storyline, which is the storyline of Gukesh, who struggled a lot in the first freestyle event in Paris. And it has not changed. It did not change. And it could be anything from the media obligations that he has to do since becoming the world champion. The last 3-4 months can be quite crazy for him. And at the same time, this format could just not be his strength yet. Could just not be his strength yet. It might not match his playing style, which is heavy on the opening preparation, heavy on the calculation. And here he doesn't get opening. He doesn't have any opening preparation, and he has no time to calculate anything because it's 10-minute chess. So it's just kind of a fascinating thing that you can see here. Like, the experienced players, the guys in their 30s, are frequently doing very well in this format. They have that experience, whereas a lot of the young players, like even Nojibek, struggled in the last event. Ali Reza, well, first of all, he's not even playing in this event, right? Gukesh struggling. So just kind of interesting to see now. The one exception, of course, being Vincent Keimer, who won the entire thing. He beat Magnus. He beat Fabi. So just kind of interesting. And, he's playing against Jan Nepomniachtchi. And Jan Nepomniachtchi made it to Paris. He made it to the Paris event. And, yeah, he's really having the time of his life. Jan Nepomniachtchi got a winning position against Gukesh in 6 moves. Kind of insane. Because he simply gets his knight to the f5 square. Like, this looks like a regular game, but this move, played in 7 seconds, is somehow already losing for black. Crazy. And it just shows you, like, how easy it is to screw up everything in this format. Everything. Instead of there, black apparently had to immediately begin an active counterplay against white because white is threatening to castle. White can also castle this way if he moves the queen up. And I just want to say, white starts the game with 10 minutes and gets 10 seconds every time he makes a move. And Jan Nepomniachtchi nearly gets up to 11 minutes. He just plays the entire opening so fast and is already threatening a mate. Like, it was impossible for black to defend his king. Rook g8. And Gukesh has to move both. Look at this. He has to move his king, and he has to move both rooks. Obviously, when you move the king, you can't castle anyway, but just kind of funny. You have to move the king and both rooks. And Jan just went at him. Knight e5, f4. This is ferocious Jan. Like, Jan is really, really good at these imbalanced, dynamic positions, always making quick decisions. b4 is again the best move, by the way. Trying to remove the stability of the position for black and secure control over the d4 square. And Jan just ripping it all over. e4, just energetic play. Every piece going forward. Black's king can't castle. Black's king is stranded in the center of the board. I didn't finish my espresso, by the way. So g5. Gukesh is resilient. He's a fighter. And Jan could blunder something. You know, he could get a little overzealous, but he just, I mean, knight g7 and bishop takes f6, carving up the position. If rook takes f6, rook e1, and this is just a bludgeoning of the black territory. Gukesh really struggled in the preliminary stage of this event. He finished with 3.5 out of 11. He lost his last 3 games. He actually had a very good start in the last day. You can't see it because it's underneath the camera. On day 1, he beat Arjun Erigaisi. That was his 1 win. And he started day 2 by beating Prague and actually by beating Vincent Keimer. So to make it to the final 8, he beat Prague and he beat Vincent. He started the day really, really well, but he was unable to keep up the momentum. He ended up losing 3 rounds in a row, and he doesn't make it to the final 8. One of these other Indian players made it to the final 8, and one of them had a very disappointing preliminary campaign. And we are going to take a look at which is which, and then I will show you the final bracket. By the way, this is the similar position. And in that game, you know, Nepo went knight f3, knight g3. And then Gukesh went knight f6, knight d7. And pawn takes d5 was played, and that was that. So in this game, we have a similar development of one of the knights. Both sides castling in a very different game, obviously. A very different flavor. A little bit of a slower game here. Rook fe8, bishop b2, just kind of a slow improving move. Rook f3 is an interesting move from Vidit, who is not really sure what he's trying to do, but he'll probably show us. Bishop a3, trading, just taking space. Okay, knight f2, and there it is, g4 f5. There we go. That's why Vidit put the rook there, to play defense and potentially play offense. Very nice. Putting a lot of pressure here on the young Erigaisi. King h8. Look at this. This is Nepo style right here. This is Vidit walking down the opponent, throwing body shots, throwing to the head. Look at g5. I mean, g4, g5. It looked like his job there was to restrict the bishop. Instead, he's playing rook h3, he's playing g6, gf, d5. Like, everything is falling in the black position. Erigaisi, though, plays defense like an old man. And what I mean by that's a compliment. I'm saying Erigaisi plays defense like a tricky man at the park. You are not just going to, you know, easily put this man away. Takes. He's down to 40 seconds. Vidit now needs to consider bishop a2, knight f7. That's difficult to allow with rook d4 on the board. And he plays d5. Arjun plays c4, trying to get his queen on the diagonal. d6, best move from Erigaisi, again, defending himself with a minute on the clock. And Erigaisi just won't die. 5 of Erigaisi's pieces are in the back rank, on the last rank of the board. It's sometimes really hard to beat somebody whose pieces are like this, because guess what? The only way to win is to go to the other side. You can't win on your own side. That's not how it works. In any sport, by the way, you have to go to the other side. Bishop g4, pawn takes g7. Somehow, Vidit is not putting Erigaisi away. Like, Erigaisi is just defending himself. And, you know, Vidit picks up a pawn. He's now up a pawn with the attack. Rook c7. And now Vidit goes here. g3 or king h1 here were preferred by the computer. I can't even begin to tell you why. I think it's to get out of the way of the knight, king h1. But we have this move, rook d8, and Vidit blunders. Vidit thought that he was threatening on f4 here, but in would come rook d1, and everything would get traded. And instead of playing rook f7, Vidit had to go queen c2. Queen c2, queen h7, probably lights out. Vidit had to find that. He goes here, and all of a sudden, not only is Arjun Erigaisi not losing, he wins the game. Queen g1, queen e1, rook b1. Arjun Erigaisi plays defense like an old man at the park. He is so tricky. He's just so tricky. It's absolutely ridiculous. He finishes with 6.5 out of 11. He had a pretty good campaign. Some wins, some losses, beat Magnus. Vidit, 2 out of 11. Absolutely. Vidit was 1 out of 2. You can't see it. Vidit lost to Magnus, beat Gukesh, and then lost 7 games in a row, which is wild. Now, on the flip side, Vidit just got married, and now he can go, honeymoon a bit. But that's tough. You would have thought, and he was the qualifier. He won the qualifier, so a rough one for Vidit. And there were 4 Indians. There was Gukesh, Prague, Erigaisi, and Vidit, and only Erigaisi made it to the top 8. And let me just say, Jan Nepomniachtchi, 8.5 out of 11. And now is where things get interesting. Vidit is cut off at the bottom there on my monitor. I can't actually pull him up, but that's Vidit right here. So the way this works, the bottom 4 play each other. So Prague plays Report, Gukesh plays Vidit in the next stage, and they try to at least win some prize money and some points. Now this is where it gets really interesting. Jan gets to choose, does he play Nordjurbank, Hikaru, Vincent, or Fabiano? Magnus chooses from the rest, MVL chooses the other, and then the Erigaisi plays whoever is left. Now this is really interesting. Who will Jan Nepomniachtchi choose? Because again, Vincent of this group could be the weakest in classical if you have to choose. But in freestyle classical, he's the defending champion. Was it a fluke? Is he one of the best freestyle players in the world? I think Jan Nepomniachtchi will choose anybody except Fabiano. He could choose Hikaru. They have a bit of a rivalry. I predict Jan probably chooses Nordjurbank. Magnus will then choose Vincent because he's a gangster, or Magnus will choose Hikaru because he understands content. But Vincent beat Magnus, so I think Jan will save Vincent for Magnus, and probably MVL will choose to play. Oh, that's very tough. MVL has to decide between Hikaru and Fabi, and both of those are tough matchups. He might choose Fabi, and then Arjun is going to play Hikaru. That's what I predict. I predict Nepo chooses Nordjurbank, Magnus chooses Vincent, MVL chooses Fabi, and Erigaisi will be left to play Hikaru. That's my prediction. We'll see if I'm right or wrong. Folks, we got a month remaining until the European Tour. Get your tickets. They are going fast. Brussels, London, Vienna, Munich, Berlin, and also in Warsaw. Also, I will be doing a little event in Prague. The Czech Chess Federation announced it, I think, on their Facebook page. So I will be there on the 13th. I'm not selling those tickets directly. They are somewhere, but if you live in the Czech Republic, in Czechia, and you'd like to go, stop by. See you there. Get out of here.